Hey, Dan, good to see you. Yeah, I mean, just ironic, I guess, is probably the word that comes to mind. I've been in 5 conference finals in the last 8 years, and the one thing I can guarantee you is that at the end of this in 2 weeks, one of Bruce or I is going to get too much credit for winning, and one of us is going to get too much blame for losing because, you get to this point with the Final Four, the margins are razor thin. Both teams are prepared, well coached, have a game plan. The players decide this, and it's always an honor to be coaching at this time of year. You never take it for granted. It's so hard to get here, just really proud of our group and the road we've taken to get here.
Stay on the left side.
Hey, Pete, Ben Goetz, Las Vegas Free-Journal. You've been on the visiting bench here in the playoffs. You've been on the home bench here in the playoffs. What's it going to be like kind of going full circle?
Yeah, you know what? Again, I think that stuff for me is kind of in the rearview mirror. We got through that during the season, being back here, the first game back. We played them 3 times. I'm all in with the Dallas Stars and our group of players here now. So that's how this game works. And so I think we got through that stuff during the year. And for me, this is a road building, one of the toughest in the league, as we all know. And our guys have to be prepared to handle the momentum swings that come with playing in this building.
Up front.
Tracy Myers, NHL.com. Jim, one more for you. Miro Heiskanen, just how have you seen his progression from the start of his career with you guys until now, and why can he dominate a game the way he can?
Well, he's a special player and a special person. It goes back to the under-18s. I remember going over there. We missed the playoffs that year. Going over the under-18s at that time, I think we were picking 12th in the draft. And so you saw this young player excited about what his future was going to be, but didn't know where you're picking. And all of a sudden we have the draft lottery. We move up to number 3. And we know that now we're looking at a different set of players, which included Miro Heiskanen. And we were fortunate to be able to select him. And he's from day one, we knew we had a special player. I was very fortunate in my days in Detroit. Players like Nick Lidstrom, watching Scott Niedermayer, had him in the World Championships. He's got those type of traits. They're all got their special traits. He's got his special traits also. But he's just at a different level. His skating's at a different level. His mind's at a different level. His stick's at a different level. And he's been blessed, and he's taken advantage of it. And he puts the work in to make him the best, and he enjoys being the best.
Right side up front.
Ed Green, your Review Journal. Jim, obviously you knew him well, but the man to your right, intangibles, strengths. Why was he the right pick at this time?
Well, I go way back. I saw him as a young man. We've aged a little bit since then, but he was starting his coaching up in the Detroit area. He's in Windsor, Kitchener, Plymouth, all through those years. And I was with Detroit back then, saw him up and coming. Watched his career as he went along and went to Florida, New Jersey, San Jose. I was fortunate to work with him in the World Championships. We were over in the Czech Republic. We had a great team over there, and he was one of the assistant coaches. Got to know him then, and all of a sudden this summer there was it was a crazy year for coaches, and we were very fortunate. There was a great list of coaches, and I knew right away. Unfortunately, he got fired. It's a tough business, but that was a gain for us, and Bill had the opportunity to have a chance, hopefully, to maybe sign him for our franchise, and we did, and we've never looked back since.
Second row on the right.
Jim, kind of building off of that, it was the same day your offseason began that Vegas let Pete go. Just curious that, when you look at the change that happened, it was a defensive team before that. What have you seen from Pete in terms of what he's brought systematically from all those different things how this team has transformed over the last year?
Well, what I love about this business is, I brought Pete in. I knew him, but I wanted to hear his philosophy, his style. How was he gonna? I asked him to analyze our organization. Where did we need to change? What style do we have to change? What what had to get better to become a potential Stanley Cup champion, and he's delivered on that. We sat down and talked. We interviewed him. Ownership was involved, and he dissected our team. And what he talked about in those meetings, those interviews, is exactly what he brought from our team from day one. He implemented some different styles. He's very honest. There was a lot of good things there too. He didn't want to change the structure, the defensive structure, a lot of how we played, but he knew there was some other things that he wanted to change. And a lot of times you do interviews and people are just going to say things and, is that implemented? He did it right from day one, and we saw it from day one. From day one, the players grabbed it. We saw the resurgence of a lot of players, and here we sit today.
Joe Trahan, WFA TV out of Dallas. Pete, this one's for you. A couple of questions about Game 7. First, do you believe in momentum carrying over at all? And then secondly, Robo said he felt like that was the new standard for this team. How would you define that standard?
Yeah. I think absolutely momentum can be carried over. I also think we needed to play a game like Game 7. We really hadn't played one yet in the playoffs. We had played well for spurts. We had been a little more inconsistent than I think either Jim or I would have liked through the first two rounds, and that's some credit to our opponents. They put us in some tough spots through those first two rounds. But you learn most about people in your group when adversity hits and when your backs are against the wall, and there's no more backs against the wall than an elimination game. And I learned a lot about our group that night with how we played, we executed, how we handled it. That really excites me about going forward here.
What are the hallmarks of that standard?
Yeah. Just our attention to detail and our execution at the most pressure-packed moment of the playoffs. It was almost flawless. We didn't have any passengers. It was to a man. And that's it's a great sign.
Left side up front.
Danny Webster, Las Vegas Sun. Pete, you've already faced these guys 3 times already, but there are a lot of familiar faces in the room opposite.
Yeah.
Going into a playoff series, can that be an advantage as far as tendencies? I know it's a different system than what you had, but can there be tendencies to pick up on as the series goes on?
Yeah, we faced them 3 times. I don't think Mark Stone was in the lineup any of the 3 times, so that changes their team. I think we're both different teams than probably the last time we played them. For sure, tendencies can help in knowing the group, but, I think Butch said it. They're as familiar with us as we are with them, with John Stevens there and the crossover and the players in that room, knowing what's important to me, having been a coach here for 3 years. So, again, I think that stuff's a little overblown. I think back to my original thought, my history and my experience with this, when you get to this time of year, the players decide. The table's been set. The teams that want it the most, that get some fortunate bounces or fortune with health, win overtime games, goaltending, special teams. I mean, all those things, those are the razor-thin margins in all those areas that decide these series when you get down to the 4 best teams at the end of the day.
You have time for 2 more questions in the middle.
Dan Rosen, NHL.com. Pete, how you doing? I'm glad you brought up Mark Stone. How big of a pain in the butt is he going to be for you guys in this series?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Listen, I got tremendous amount of respect for all those players in that dressing room. I enjoyed my time with them. We won a lot of games. Have a lot of great memories of that group. But they're on the other side now. We have to find a way to counteract that. So, Mark Stone is one of those guys that we're going to have to deal with on the other side. But he's not alone. They've got a stacked roster there.
Right side.
Joseph Hoyt, Dallas Morning News. Jim, Max Domi had 8 points against Seattle last series. I guess how is the player that he's being right now compared to the player that you wanted to acquire at the deadline?
Well, Max has done a great job for us. we've known Max for a long time. I remember going back to junior days with him. He's been an elite player, and you watch his career come along, and you're looking for the right fit on a team. And we had some needs on our team. We weren't quite. We had a good year, but at the trade deadline, we wanted to add, add a little bit of depth to especially to our forward group, and add some scoring. And we added Max. He's come in and done a great job for us. He's added that depth we needed. He plays the game the right way. He's hard to play against. We're really excited about his attention to detail on his own end, which has been exciting to see, and we know he can put up points. And same with Dadenoff. We picked him up, and both guys are really fit into the team. They fit into it's not only on the ice, but it's in the dressing room. It's not easy when you acquire players in February and you're uprooting their families and their lifestyle, and got to come and fit into a new team. And both these guys have come in from day one. Put them on lines, and they fit in from day one. Dadenoff's fit in with Ben's line, Max has fit in with Sagan and Marchment, and it's really given us three real potent lines, and then we got the fourth line that really does a solid job of playing that checking role and killing penalties. So they really added to our depth.
Last question up front.
Ryan Clark, ESPN. Pete and Jim, this is actually for both of you. Going back to Miro, I mean, yes, both of you and everyone has said just here's what makes him special. But yet, when you look at this year and the points he had, it seems like more people took notice. Do you think that's what it's going to have to take for defensemen in today's era to maybe receive that attention, where guys like Miro or Jacob Slavin, like they have to score 70 points in order to get that attention? Or do you think more people realize this stuff? It's just they don't talk about it because it's not the most sexy or attractive thing.
I'll fire away here. Yeah. Do they need? No. There's so many great players out there. And I think it's just, I'm going to be kind of frank here a little bit. We play down in Dallas, Texas. And, we're not, our start times are a little bit different. People don't see us all the time. And, but this is what's great about these moments. Now people get to see Miro Heiskanen on the stage. I think they started to see in these last couple rounds here. They've seen what he can do. So yeah, points. Miro has that ability, and he's done that. We challenged him. We needed more points. We made some changes to our back end, and a big part of that was going to be Miro starting to run the first power play. And how was that going to fit in? We knew he could do it, and he grabbed it and went with it. But what's special about Miro is the other parts of his game, and I think people are starting to understand it. But you watch his game, what he does with his stick, and what he does against best players. He's matched up against best players every night, and what he does to neutralize those, it's something to see. I still remember a game last year. He led a rush on a 2-on-1 and made the pass, and the guy took the shot, and he went wide, and so it was a 3-on-2 going the other way, and we were like, we're in trouble. And then I remember sitting up in the press box, and somebody says, okay, it's all right, Miro's coming back. And by the blue line, he caught the player and nullified the play. That's what he does that's special. It's not only the points, it's those other things that he does.
Yeah, and I would agree with Jim. I think the Norris has turned into, you have to have points, but there's also been a recognition defensively, your assignments and who you're playing against, and penalty killing and all that responsibility. I hope it stays like that. I hope it doesn't turn into a point trophy. I don't think it has yet. I think it's eked that way. But, in my time, I think people still value the defensive piece of it, which I think is, as or more important than the offensive piece. So hopefully it stays that way.